Yep, there we go.
Hello, folks. This is Scrappy Fan 92. Last episode, I had a nervous breakdown, but today is the beginning of a new happy Scrappy. So I welcome you all to Storytime with Scrappy and Friends, episode 14. With us today is Harry.
Story time with Scrappy and friends, but it's scary a little bit.
Scary time with Scrappy.
No. Scary time is when we read my stories.
Fair enough.
It's brilliant.
Also with us. Also with us today is Tanner.
Hey, what are you talking about? You had a mental breakdown because I wasn't here last episode.
No. Oh, you were with us last episode.
Oh, right.
We took a 2-week break due to scheduling issues, and Harry suggested I do a stopgap episode, and then that just never happened, so we just recorded a week later.
I thought you were referring to the stopgap.
Nope, it doesn't exist. I was saying, oh, I'll just find a one-shot, and then I didn't.
I would totally write a cease troll thick, though. I would absolutely do that.
That'd be hilarious. I want to see that.
And with us today is our narrator, Nova.
Hello.
I should not have drank so much coffee, but I had to stay awake.
So where we last left off of our story, till we make our ascent, Umi revealed a harrowing revelation. Revealed a revelation. She revealed a reveal.
She revealed the revealing revelation.
Yes, and her friends hate her guts. Like, people cried. It was...
I just kind of called her a bitch.
Yeah, Nico used the F word, because this is a big boy story.
It's a big boy
Yeah.
story. This ain't your mama's love life.
And now, Umi and friends are gonna go nine members of Muse, so heaven help us.
All stressful. Let's go!
I'm handling Umi, Nozomi, and Hanayo, and probably Ellie. Tanner him.
Thanks.
Nova will be handling the narrator and again.
Well, I mean,
Shut up.
we weren't planning on monetizing this anyway.
Shut up.
Thank you. I'll be here all week.
And Harry will reprise that role once more against his will.
What? I didn't have... Oh my god.
Harry will be non-consensually reprising the role of Rin.
I guess.
Reprising the role of alliteration.
Have fun, Harrison. Nova, you have the floor. You may begin.
All right. Alright, here we go. Chapter 7, Let It Go. Umi slid her front door shut, turning to face a rapidly darkening sky. People were already out and about, some of them festive, most of them bundled in layers of warm clothing. She whipped out her phone, rereading messages from earlier in the day to make sure she was following the plan.
So, what time tonight? 7:30?
Nozomi. Sounds like a plan. Let's see. I guess I'll handle Honoka as well. Oh gosh. Yes, I'm so excited. I'm not
General
excited.
agreements were made by the rest of the group, but Umi glossed over these in favor of the message that she had received 9 minutes later in a separate chat.
Okay. Honoka adding Umi and Kotori like Harry adds me every day. You guys want to meet up at my place? Yeah. You guys want to meet up at my place before 7:30? It's been a while since it was just the three of us, you know, and we can just go out together when everyone else is ready. Smiley face.
By the time Umi had seen this message, she had already been spoken for.
All right, guys, wish me luck. I'm gonna pitch my voice up like I never pitched
we
it up
were both-
before.
Exercises
Yeah.
right before this.
I am prepared to struggle.
And make it double.
Exactly. Can't wait. Umi-chan and I will see you then.
Umi sighed as she checked the time on her phone. 5:55. She had no reason to worry this time, and the three of them coming together would only be a cause to celebrate. She lingered on her doorstep a moment longer. Absently, she thumbed back through this chat's history. And it didn't take long for her to realize that it was last active almost 2 years ago.
Of course. Sorry. Of course.
And yet, it was Honoka, reviving it like it was the most natural thing in the world. Umi couldn't help but smile. A sudden draft almost dislodged her beanie. When Umi looked up to adjust it, she realized that she was already in front of Honoka's house. She knocked before she had the time to second-guess herself. After what sounded like a minor commotion, the door opened. Honoka stood there, all smiles, with an undone scarf draped around her neck.
Umi-chan!
Her smile grew wider still, and she grasped Umi's hand and pulled her in.
Are you ready? For what?
Umi glanced down at their intertwined hands, and then back up at Honoka's expectant face.
For a whole lot of fun. We've got to catch. We've got to catch up. We've got to catch up, you know.
Umi let Honoka lead her through the vacant first floor and up the stairs, silent all the while. She had almost been expecting her to say,
For the best night of your life.
and tried to suppress the dregs of disappointment that started to well up when Honoka hadn't. Things are different now, but the eerie similarities between the two meetings, 2 years apart, weren't lost on her. Honoka burst into her room with Umi in tow.
And just like that, we're reunited.
She announced. Kotori sat at the lone desk in the room, looking up when Honoka declared the present.
All right, I'd summon the powers of Christina Valenzuela. Umi-chan!
She broke out into a warm smile.
What'd you say, Tanner?
The entire country of Venezuela has failed you.
No.
No, it's
Valenzuela.
Venezuela now.
Okay. All right. She broke out into a warm smile. How have you been? Not bad.
Umi picked out a safe, non-committal response.
It's been a while since we're all. Excuse me. It's been a while since we were all together.
She added, glancing at Honoka.
Right?
Kotori agreed.
How do you want to celebrate, Honoka-chan?
With 2 pairs of eyes now on her, Honoka rubbed the back of her neck.
Honestly, I was just gonna go out and spend a bunch of money on food while we look at the Christmas lights.
Valid.
Umi and Kotori shared an amused look.
I suppose I can't argue with that.
Umi said.
For now, how how about we take a picture? Oh, that's a great idea. Our first picture in 2 years.
Kotori sighed.
Oh goodness, I hope this doesn't show how much Oh goodness, I hope this doesn't show how much weight I put on in that time. Oh my. Hey, you don't get to complain.
Honoka giggled.
You know how hard it is being surrounded by sweets all day? I feel this. I don't go out much either.
Umi rolled her eyes, smiling all the while.
You two look perfectly fine. Here, I'll take the picture.
As she took her phone from the table, she was greeted with a notification on her home screen.
Pardon me. I was yawning. Oh, excuse me for a moment.
She entered the password to see who had messaged her.
Ah, good old Marika. Let's see. Yeah,
I don't know.
I forgot how
Do you have anyone who
Nova
thinks
made
special?
Marika sound. She's kind of smug. Like,
Oh.
all right.
Okay, so Nova can player.
Yeah, he was Marika originally.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so trying to differentiate it from my Maki voice. Hold on. Merry
I
Christmas,
believe in you.
Sonata. Merry Christmas, Sonata-san. I hope you're enjoying the break. Okay, that's all. Oh, if you're at home, means you might be hanging out with Muse, right? If it's not a problem, can I have
8:06
a
p.m.
picture?
8:07 p.m.
Smiley face. I'm not gonna wave it around to anyone, I promise. Smiley face.
Who's Nikaido Marika-san? I cannot.
Umi jumped at the voice in her ear, glancing around to see that Honoka was peering over her shoulder, scrutinizing her phone with narrowed eyes. Seemingly oblivious to the invasion of privacy she was committing, she looked up at Umi.
She's she's a friend, or
Umi shrugged, mulling over just how true the designation was.
I suppose yes.
Honoka broke into a smile.
See, you're doing just fine for yourself. You've made friends over there. That's more the exception than the norm, Honoka-chan.
Umi's voice dropped to a little more than a murmur. They were once again straying into dangerous territory if she were to dwell on her social life, or lack thereof. A shadow of sympathy passed over Honoka's face, but it was replaced with a newfound determination as soon as it appeared.
Well, what are we waiting for? Let's send her a picture. She likes Muse, right?
She lifted Fumi's phone from her hands, beckoning both girls closer as she posed for the phone's camera. They bunched together under the camera lens. Umi took in their on-screen smiles, wondering for all of a moment how genuine they were, before the screen flashed and the moment passed.
It's pretty excuse me. It's pretty amazing to see people still like us after all this time.
Honoka handed Umi her phone, her smile still lingering.
Even though we were only around for a year. That must mean we have done. Excuse me. That means we must have done something right.
Umi's laugh died in her throat as she reviewed the picture.
Can we retake this? I blinked.
Honoka grinned, a teasing glint in her eyes, and Umi shrunk back on instinct.
Sure, why not?
When Umi offered no resistance, Honoka took her phone again and promptly pointed it back towards its owner. She tapped away at the screen, humming a merry tune as she snapped candid after candid. It took Umi far too long to realize what Honoka was doing. By the time she did, a number of unflattering pictures were already saved to her camera roll.
Hey, not that kind of picture.
She grabbed for her phone, but Honoka reacted quicker and held it out of reach, still tapping away.
Why you?
She sprang to her feet. Honoka did the same.
You'll never catch me.
With each swipe forward that Umi took, Honoka backed up, swinging her phone above her head all the while, her shoulders shaking with mirth.
That's adorable.
Laughing, she chased Honoka around the room, each of them almost tripping over the many obstacles present within the small space allotted, which included Honoka's bed, her desk, her bookshelf, and each other.
You two probably shouldn't run around in here.
Kotori called, but her plea was ignored. Through it all, Honoka never stopped taking pictures of her. Her phone's storage space was surely suffering.
You cannot run forever.
Umi saw her opportunity. She leapt at Honoka, and with a surprised yelp, the two of them tumbled onto Honoka's bed. Umi emerged triumphant, hopping up from the surprising amount of exertion she had gone through, sitting on top of the other girl, and finally earning control over what was rightfully hers.
These pictures will never see the light of day.
She took to marking the myriad candidates for deletion. Honoka piped up from below her.
You can delete them, but can you? My face in this picture could be nightmare fuel. Almost. Can you get off me first?
An intense flush overtook Umi's face as she had realized that she was still sitting on top of Honoka, who wouldn't look her in the eye. She scratched at the side of her face, but even that couldn't conceal the obvious blush that she and Umi now shared.
The last time I was here,
Umi half jumped, half fell off of Honoka and the bed. Any potential response is choked by the mortification that colored her face. Only after Honoka got up and put on a nervous smile did she manage to swallow the lump in her throat.
Sorry.
A sigh brought their collective attention to the third party in the room.
I told you two not to. I told you two not to run around. What if someone had gotten hurt?
Kotori shook her head, but her smile interfered with the admonishment in her voice. Honoka shrugged.
I didn't think that would awaken the beast.
She smirked at said beast. Umi didn't fall for the obvious bait, for she was too relieved that Kotori had the sense to defuse the situation.
You know, you know how much I dislike pictures, especially non-posed ones. Non-posed ones.
They returned their seats at the table while Umi attached the intended photo for a college acquaintance. After her back and forth with Honoka, she minded her blinking in this picture much less.
Did she like it?
Honoka asked once Umi put down her phone.
I just sent it. She probably won't respond right away.
She tried to ignore Honoka's smug grin. God damn, still fucking squeak. You're so cute. Thank you. You just made my Christmas. Another smiley face.
Thank you, voice actress, Princess Peach.
God.
That is the best thing I've heard in ages.
Oh God, you told me you would never do that again. You promised me you would never do that again.
Oh, yes.
Well, I don't think. Well, I'm sorry, Tina. I don't think America's like Fluttershy, so I can't do my Fluttershy voice.
Fucking kill myself. For you had to bring ponies into this too. Jesus Christ.
My sleep
I
per-
How have I not quit this show?
because you love it.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, she liked it.
Umi made a mental note to thank Tori later, considering the dangerous situation that she had found herself in as a result of her and Honoka's roughhousing. The implications of such could have easily permeated the rest of the night if she would have blamed herself for needlessly making everything awkward. Instead, Kotori had kept them both occupied by directing the topics of conversation, even though Umi caught herself looking at Honoka's bed multiple times. Whether they shared stories of Umi's off-kilter teaching assistant, Honoka's favorite regular customers, or Kotori's two-faced classmates, Umi found herself hanging on to every word. It was so easy for her to forget that almost 2 years had passed since they had last done this. She did forget it, more than once. In the midst of their casual conversation, a wistful smile crossed her face, while she superimposed days passed over the scene before her.
I've missed this.
As the scheduled meeting time drew closer, she could see Honoka growing more restless. First, the hints were subtle. Her blue eyes flickered towards her phone with increasing frequency until she ultimately caved, snatching it up and thumbing through.
We can head out early if you'd like.
Umi offered.
Huh?
Honoka lowered her phone.
No, it's fine. Just checking if anyone else is. Excuse me. Just checking if anyone else is there yet. I wouldn't mind. The lights probably look very nice by now.
Umi followed suit, switching on her own screen to check the time. They had about a half hour left to wait.
No, really. We still need to catch up, right, Kotori-chan?
She looked to the girl in question for support.
I don't mind either way.
Kotori shrugged.
I got it!
Honoka's hand shot up in the air, and drawing the attention of everyone in the room.
How about we each say the most interesting thing that's happened to us since we graduated? We haven't already?
Umi frowned. The stories they'd exchanged were certainly interesting, or more accurately, entertaining. Was that what Honoka meant? Had she keyed into the difference between the two?
Not yet.
Honoka insisted.
No offense, Umi-chan, but if your most interesting college story is a weirdo TA, then...
Umi raised an eyebrow, daring Honoka to continue with that claim.
It's college, you know? College!
Honoka seemed to get the hint. Her excitement withered slightly, and she settled on a less insulting alternative.
You have all the freedom in the world.
Umi looked away.
Oh, you're going to be so disappointed.
Yet she didn't have the heart to turn Honoka down, in part because she could turn the question back to the very person who asked.
If I think... Pardon me. If I think of something, I'll tell you. That sounds so
She
dismissive.
shrugged.
If I think of something, I'll tell you.
She shrugged.
Thank you.
This seemed to placate Honoka for the moment, for she turned her attention to the third girl in the room.
Do you have anything, Kotori-chan?
She asked.
The most for Pete's sake, the most interesting thing.
Kotori gave her a long shrug. Kotori gave her a long shrug, her eyes flitting about. Umi and Honoka watched her expectantly.
The first thing that comes to mind is something I'm planning. Does that count? Sure.
Kotori made a face, one that Umi couldn't interpret it on its own. Umi narrowed her eyes, anticipating that this wouldn't necessarily be good news.
Well, I'm thinking about going overseas to finish my undergraduate program. Really?
Honoka brought her hands down to the desk and leaned forward. She didn't seem to share Umi's uncertainty.
Oh, gosh. That's awesome, Kotori-chan. How long have you been thinking of My voice is cracking. How long have you been thinking about it? A while.
Kotori said, her tone still neutral.
Nothing's final yet, but I have another year to think about it, since applications are usually due in November.
Umi couldn't shake her unpleasant anticipation, and she elected to clear it up as soon as possible.
It's a momentous decision, so it's good that you're taking time. It's a momentous decision, so it's good that you're taking your time to think.
She put in.
Is there something stopping you?
Kotori looked to her.
There is.
Honoka leaned back, her hands falling into her lap. Dropping her voice, she asked,
What is it?
She seemed to pick up on the sudden mood shift.
It's an amazing. It's an amazing opportunity. It is, but it comes with a lot of conditions.
Kotori tried.
Things that I'm not really looking forward to.
Umi looked up at Honoka, wondering if she should intervene. She immediately reprimanded herself for the thought. Honoka had the capacity to say the right thing in most sensitive situations. Their experience last night on the rooftop was proof of that.
Like what?
Honoka asked. In this case, Umi hardly needed to worry, since that was the obvious follow-up. The overall direction of this conversation, however, was a different matter.
Well, I wouldn't finish. Excuse me. Well, I wouldn't mind finishing my undergrad here in Tokyo, but initially I stayed in Japan so I could gain an understanding of the environment I'd be working in. While fashion school here isn't world famous, that also means it's less intense.
Kotori, to her credit, never stumbled over her words or paused to think. It was clear to Umi that she put a lot of thought into this.
I feel attacked right now.
Well, that's why you invite me.
Yes, that's why we invite you, Tanner.
Thank you.
And we invite Nova to attack you with his voice.
And other things. And his words. He's very hurtful.
So I told myself that if I couldn't handle how they do things here, I wouldn't have a chance overseas.
She continued.
And after 2 years? Well...
She looked away, smiling wryly.
Just because it's less intense doesn't mean it's not intense. I think I've told both of you that I've seen a lot of people break down already.
Umi and Honoka nodded.
If it's tough here, it has to be no less than cutthroat in Europe.
She laughed, though her eyes told two girls that it was anything but amusing.
I might be too soft to survive over there.
Umi could only stare. She struggled for some sort of response, but seeing the way that Kotori cast her eyes down towards the table, her fingers drumming and restless in her lap, She knew she couldn't offer any sort of encouragement that surpassed the territory of shallow platitudes.
I'm sure you could do it.
No, that was too generic.
Don't worry.
She knew from experience that telling someone not to feel a certain way would only deprecate their current mindset further. Especially when the person in question already knew it was best not to wallow in their own negative cycle of thoughts. Umi stole a glance at Honoka, and in that very moment she knew that Honoka was just as lost as she. Her blue eyes sent a silent plea back, begging her to save the situation. Once again, Kotori had come to the rescue. She brought a gentle fist down onto the table, making the other two girls jump.
But that doesn't mean I'm not going to try.
A shred of determination crept into her normally dainty voice.
Keep pushing yourself, right? That's what you two would tell me. Yes, of course.
Umi echoed the sentiment, hoping it didn't sound too hollow in the stretch of silence that preceded Kotori's expression of faith.
If you think you can handle it. I believe you, Kotori-chan.
Honoka seemed to compensate for the resolve that Umi lacked, and she grasped Kotori's hand in her own.
Okay. Thanks, you two. Oh, gosh. Thanks, you two.
Kotori offered both of them a warm smile.
It's not guaranteed that I get admitted, even if I do apply. But I guess nothing bad will come out of submitting the application.
She then flushed, putting a hand to her cheek.
Oh my, I think I've talked a lot about myself.
She giggled.
I'm passing off the baton to you.
She pointed.
Your turn, Umi-chan.
With two pairs of eager eyes now on her, Umi had to concede.
It's only fair. For me, it's...
Unfortunately, she was still at a loss for what she designated as her most interesting thing. The obvious answer that came to her mind was her falling out with Honoka, but to describe that as merely interesting, to even consider that painfully neutral word in the context of Honoka's question, was both disrespectful and heartless to everyone involved. The only event that remained as a plausible choice was one that both of Umi's friends already knew about, but it was safe to discuss it as well, if only by the process of attrition.
I'm sorry to repeat myself, but I'm sorry to repeat myself, but it really is the song for me.
After a moment, she added in a more vulnerable aside.
Nothing else comes close.
Her declaration was met with silence. Not willing to elaborate, she merely watched Kotori, and even more so Honoka, piece together the implication of her statement.
My life, my life since I graduated high school has been unbearably lonely.
The song itself was born of the sentiment. Umi knew this, and she knew that these two girls knew it too. Knowing this, she still grappled with the possibility that the song meant something more, that somehow she had included another meaning subconsciously. As the silence dragged on, she realized that she'd just placed herself in a perfect position for another grilling.
I really, really want to hear it, Umi-chan.
This time, Honoka broke the silence, her voice soft and almost bashful.
If it means that much, excuse me. If it means that much to you that you'd put it at your number one spot anyway, that's more because I had to eliminate the other contender for that spot out of necessity.
Umi stifled the cynical thought, a more humorous one taking its place. Smiling wryly, she replied.
I take it back. It was difficult to choose between a song and seeing all you girls again.
Honoka giggled, waving a dismissive hand in the air.
Too late! Flattery will get you nowhere with us, Umi-chan.
Katori, meanwhile, hummed to herself, an eyebrow quirked in playful thought.
No. No, Umi-chan might be onto something. Can I steal that and use that? Can I steal that and use that as my answer instead?
Honoka gasped in mock horror.
No take-backs!
She couldn't keep up her offended facade for any longer, and a sudden giggle escaped her. That was all it took for the dam to break loose. She burst out laughing, hunching over the table as she clutched at her sides. Exchanging an amused glance, Umi and Gatori fell into the contagious sound as well, with Umi offering herself an eternal congratulations on making Honoka laugh so freely. She'd really missed this. When the laughter petered out, Umi returned to the subject at hand.
Expect it soon. Maki told me that she scheduled our first recording sessions for after Christmas. That's amazing!
Honoka grinned, and now she repeated the same gesture she'd used on Kotori earlier, leaning all the way across the table to grasp Umi's hands.
You know, excuse me. You know, I didn't know if I'd hear your songwriting. You know, I didn't know if I'd hear your songwriting again. Hearing how something still pushes you to write music, well, I just know I'll love it. Love it.
Umi stared into Honoka's eyes, which spelled nothing but a quiet determination. For her, she didn't know if she deserved it. Kotori seemed intent to watch the scene unfold this time, as she didn't offer any saving grace in the wake of Honoka's honest admission. Umi was on her own. The least she could do was return the sentiment.
I didn't have a reason to write.
She said, looking down.
Now I do, obviously, but I agree. I hope this will be a recurring pattern from here on out. You haven't lost any of your songwriting talent from what you showed me.
Kotori chose this moment to speak up.
What?
Honoka fell back to her seat at the table, looking between her two friends in shock.
You showed Kotori you showed Kotori-chan the lyrics and not me? I'm being robbed!
Umi grimaced, putting her hands up in an attempt to console Honoka.
I didn't have them on me yesterday. I would have showed you then. Fine.
Honoka whined, slumping over the table.
You don't have them on you now, do you?
Umi shook her head.
I guess I can wait another day or so.
She muttered, though she sounded reluctant to admit it. Umi watched Honoka fidget on the table in front of her. It dawned on her that she was the last to fulfill her own request.
What about you, Honoka? What's the most interesting thing that's happened to you?
Honoka's hand froze in the middle of its way down the table. She was caught off guard, and the red that tinted her cheeks told Umi that she knew it. Withering under Umi's expectant gaze, she squeaked out.
You two have more than enough interesting stuff for the three of us, combined! Honoka.
Umi sighed.
You knew this would come back to you. I did.
Honoka's side tail bounced in her nervousness. She tented her splayed hands together, watching her fingers move as if of their own accord.
I should have gone first. My answer's pretty bad. We're not we're not going to judge.
Kotori encouraged. Umi nodded.
You have nothing to worry about. Right.
Honoka trailed off into murmuring, her fingers still wandering across one another. With her eyes trained downward, she said, her voice none the louder.
Then for me, it was yesterday. When you came back, Umi-chan.
Umi felt her shoulders tighten. She exchanged the quickest of glances with Kotori, who didn't hide her stare. With Honoka still fidgeting, the onus was on her to respond gracefully.
You need to raise your standards, Honoka. No, you misunderstand, Umi-chan. Shocking, surprising, unexpected, amazing. I couldn't describe any other day like that. But that was the day you came back. It's no contest. That sounds vaguely positive.
Umi tried to force a smile, given the majority of neutral adjectives that Honoka had used, strong though they were.
It is!
Honoka nodded so rapidly Umi thought it would be cause for a headache later.
Give yourself more credit, Umi-chan. No!
As Umi readied another self-deprecating response, all three phones hummed on the desk. Umi snatched herself first, and then bleh, gah. As Umi readied another self-deprecating response, all three phones hummed on the desk. Honoka snatched hers up first, unlocking it to reveal their shared group chat.
It's Nico-chan!
She declared before the other two could even open the app.
She's ready, let's go!
Up, bitches, I'm in this episode!
Honoka was up and out before Umi could blink, the tail end of her scarf disappearing behind the door. The remaining two girls shared a shocked look that soon morphed into amusement. Laughing, they took their time in exiting the room. Downstairs, Honoka hopped from foot to foot, eyeing Umi and Kotori impatiently.
Come on, you two. Come on, you two. Time's a wasting. Everyone else is out already.
While Kotori offered the necessary apologies, the living room door spread open.
You're going out now, Oni-chan?
Yukiho stepped halfway through the doorframe, peering at the three older girls with a dubious eye.
Oh, Kotori-senpai. Umi-senpai.
Umi stiffened. Yukio's voice was cordial at first blush, but now she now knew better than to let her guard down. She only gave Yukio a small nod, turning away while Kotori offered a more formal wave. Honoka beamed at her sister.
Bye, Yukiho. We're off. Merry Christmas and all that.
She grabbed Umi and Kotori by the hands, practically dragging them out the door. Umi's rational mind was urging her not to turn around as they left, but a twisted curiosity to see through Yukio's supposed facade made her glance back. Yukio hadn't moved, but any semblance of welcoming had disappeared from her face. With an icy cold glare, obvious even from her half-concealed frame, she jabbed two fingers at her own eyes. Then she used the same fingers to point at Umi. Umi whipped around as they stepped out into the wintry evening cold, already regretting her impulsive decision. The timing of the situation was not impeccable. Just as they rounded the corner to one of the major streets, a collective gasp sounded from the three girls, as well as many of the passerby. A Christmas tree stood in a pedestrian square, dwarfed by the nearby buildings in height but not in radiance. Countless strings of light adorned its pines, swathing the tree in a rainbow glow. A large star perched at the tree's apex, but not even this completed the dazzling spectacle the girls saw now. Now, the tree's brilliance illuminated tiny frozen flakes, which now fell to the ground enshrined by light, giving them an almost ethereal glow. Snow. Honoka was the first to react. She took one glacial step forward and reached out to catch the falling snowflakes, holding them up to her face even as they melted into nothing against the warmth of her hands.
Umi-chan? Kotori-chan?
She turned around to face them. Her voice was quiet, as though she hadn't fully grasped the situation yet.
Are you seeing this?
She didn't need to ask.
It's a Christmas miracle.
At first, Honoka's smile was easy to miss, made more so by the low volume of her voice. But it grew, unsteady and unsure, as Umi watched. It was like seeing a defunct light bulb seeing its first use in years, flickering at first, but eventually finding a steady radiance to project. It was like she was learning to really smile, all over again.
A Christmas miracle! Miracle!
Her smile bloomed wider and wider still, and before she knew it, Umi found herself smiling all the same. Honoka took off down the street ahead of them, her laughter still audible the further she ran. It was an expression of the pure, childlike joy that Umi had always envied in her oldest friend, and one that now made her clutch her heart in relief. It hadn't been completely taken away after all. They watched Honoka jump and twirl amidst the falling swirl, drawing more than a few glances from the other people that crowded the streets.
It's like she's our daughter.
Kotori commented, laughing. Umi had to giggle a little herself.
I still love that. I still love that part of her, though. How was yesterday? I take it you two have made up? Wow, Kotori's all business, right into the topic at hand. It seems so, but... But what?
How should she articulate her reservations about last night? What would she start with? Especially with someone who, if she were forced to pick, would probably side with the other party.
Yukiho is scary.
It was perfect in her mind, both a joke and a diversion while Umi pored over the details last night. Kotori laughed unsteadily in response.
I can see where she's coming from. So can I, but I wish I wasn't on the wrong end of it. Or the right end.
Kotori pointed out.
Depending on how you look at it.
If she needed confirmation, Kotori had a tendency to side with Honoka. That was it.
Thank you, Kotori.
Umi grimaced at her friend's nonchalant expression.
As if I needed another reminder that I'm permanently in the wrong.
Kotori shrugged.
We're on the same page. That's good to see.
Umi mimicked her shrug, choosing to further explain her previous thread of conversation.
I didn't know she was so protective of I didn't know she was so protective of Honoka. Nor did I know that she could speak with such vitriol. It's funny how that turned out, is it not? The clumsy older sister and a strict, responsible younger sister. She and Honoka-chan make for quite the comedic duo. Yeah, well.
Umi managed a brief, cursory laugh.
I can appreciate the humor more when it's not detrimental to me. That's fair.
Kotori nodded in what Umi hoped to be sympathy.
You're running with the protective Emoto aside. What about the rest of... Ugh. You're running with the protective Emoto aside. What about the rest of the night?
She leaned in slightly, the gesture so covert that Umi wouldn't have taken a note of it had it come from anyone else.
I saw how you two were interacting earlier. Outwardly, I saw almost no problems. So, how did it go?
There was no escaping the watchful eye of Kotori.
It didn't go the way I imagined. Excuse me. It didn't go the way I imagined it would go.
Umi adjusted her maroon beanie as snowflakes started to settle on her exposed forehead.
You've had more than a year to play out the scenario in your head.
Kotori pointed out.
I'm sure you spent more than a little bit of time doing that. Kotori, please don't expose my private thoughts so casually.
Umi muttered, staring down at the ground.
Oh, so I was right?
Katori's voice was tinged with mirth, and an innocent giggle escaped her. Watching Umi's escalating embarrassment seemed to be an adequate response for her, so she dropped the teasing act.
How did you imagine... Excuse me. How did you imagine it would... For Pete's sake. How did you imagine it would go?
She asked, her voice lowered slightly. Umi watched as Honoka, lost in the joys of a Christmas Eve snowfall, collided with an innocent couple appreciating the scenery in the middle of the street. Her ginger side tail bounced up and down as she bowed her head to him in a hurriedly apologetic gesture.
I thought... Excuse me. I thought I would be able to apologize for what I did to her at the very... Let me try that again. I thought I would be able to apologize for what I did to her at the very least.
Umi said, finally.
She doesn't need to hear that. She knows you regret what you did.
Umi grimaced on instinct.
I don't like the sound of that, but I'll bite. How do you know that?
Katori shrugged.
We've talked about it a lot.
Umi sighed, trying to ignore how her fingers began to twitch. She was suddenly gripped with the urge to fidget. Staying still was almost unbearable.
I knew it. We never hated you for it, you know.
Katori placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, and Umi's anxiety was quelled, if only slightly, by the gesture.
That's a little surprising. Really? Really? I would have hated me if I was in your place. I think all three of us feel at least partly responsible for what happened.
Katori said, her eyes still on Honoka.
Even even you, Katori?
Katori removed her hand. It seemed that it was her turn to fidget, as she ran that same hand repeatedly across the nape of her neck.
I was encouraging her to confess to you. Let me try that again. I was encouraging her to confess to you. It never occurred to me that you'd react as badly as you did. This is new information. That's not your fault. It's yours, I know. But I never even considered the possibility that things would go that badly. I think I just wanted to see you two happy, so I didn't want to think about any alternative.
Umi ran an absent hand across her forearm. Katori's words were far more present in her mind. If they all shared blame in their mess of a situation, then the solution certainly did not lie in the vicious cycle of self-deprecation that Umi was all too familiar with.
Our respective shares of responsibility aren't equal.
She said.
I know.
Katori nodded sagely.
But it might help but it might help to know that it's not all your fault. Or all your fault and Honoka-chan's fault. We're all doing our respective parts to mend this. Wait. We're all doing our. Pardon me. We're all doing our. Give me a moment. We're all doing our respective parts to mend this mess then. Ugh, hold on. We're all doing our respective parts to mend this mess then? Yeah.
Katori beamed at her, and Umi mirrored the gesture with a shadow of a smile. Umi felt a moment of understanding pass between them, and it was comforting to know that Katori's sympathies weren't completely biased against her.
So why does Honoka blame herself? She wishes she didn't let it happen.
Katori's smile was gone, replaced by a somber, knowing countenance.
She she thinks she wasn't strong enough. Oh goodness. Yeah.
Umi kicked at the ground, and the little snow that had settled there flew up around her. She kept her eyes glued there, ashamed as she was to meet Kotori's eyes. More shameful still, she didn't have a follow-up response to Kotori's words. It was less of a revelation and more of an unpleasant truth. She'd known, somewhere in the back of her mind, that this was the most likely scenario. Honoka, for all her gusto, had a notable lack of self-worth when it came to failure, and if her feelings towards her follower were at all similar to Umi's, then she considered it a massive failure.
Let's sit here while we wait for Honoka-chan.
Kotori indicated a vacant bench that they had just walked past. They both brushed off a little snow accumulated in silence before sitting down.
What did you two actually excuse me. What did you two actually talk about then?
She asked once they had both gotten settled. Umi mulled over last night's events.
Our lives, really.
She said, recalling how she had used the same phrase then.
She was being very cryptic about some things.
Kotori hummed, bemused.
I'm not surprised. There's a lot excuse me. There's a lot that she wants to say to you. How much of it do you know?
Umi frowned.
You should hear it from her, remember? Oh, right.
Umi muttered, a little grudgingly.
Last night she brought me to the school roof and she mostly talked about how our time in Muse is still affecting her.
Kotori's only response was a simple,
Ah.
Umi shot her an irritated look, which Kotori either didn't notice or pretended to ignore.
I take it you know about this already? I do. How long has this been going on? It's concerning, to say the least.
Kotori turned to her expression completely serious.
She's been saying things like that ever since you left. Since I left?
Umi froze.
You mean to say I did that? Just the opposite, actually. I don't understand. Just think about what's bothering her.
Kotori craned her neck, looking in the distance for their mutual friend, the subject of their conversation. Umi joined her, but Honoka was still out of sight.
It's a case of over nostalgia, maybe? She's so caught up in the good times that she's so caught up in the good times that it's affecting her negatively. She's so caught up in the good times that it's affecting her negatively? Is there a word for that? She's wistful.
Umi let out the word immediately.
That's the one. So what does that... Excuse me. That's the one. So what does any of that have to do with you?
Umi hesitated. She was starting to key into Kotori's point.
Well, I was there for all those times as well. But I suppose a lot of her feelings towards the past are out of my control. Exactly. Maybe through no fault of your own, you leaving finally made Honoka-chan face reality. I think that would have happened regardless of how you left. Do you think that's a good thing? Do you think that's a good thing? I don't know, but we all have to face it at some point.
Kotori's eyes swam with a sadness that Umi couldn't quite place. Whether it was for Honoka, Umi, or all three of them, she didn't know.
We can't be Gosh. We can't be kids forever.
Umi chewed on her lower lip, weighing her friend's words. Though she agreed, she wasn't sure how exactly to respond to such a revelatory yet obvious declaration. They had all known subconsciously. Then she took in Kotori's perfectly straight back, her sorrowful yet determined gaze, and the overall confident acceptance with which she carried herself.
Some of us are, excuse me, some of us are handling it better than others.
The words left her mouth before she could process and filter them in her mind. Kotori turned to her and smiled.
For now. For now.
Umi returned it with a more grudging smile of her own, then pressed one of her palms to her forehead. Without her noticing, snowflakes had accumulated on her exposed hand during her conversation with Kotori, and she recoiled at the sudden rush of cold water on her head. She promptly shook the droplets off.
She's been she's been struggling so much this whole time. Meanwhile, I was trying to forget about her. I'm the worst. You still have time to make up for it. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that.
At this, Umi recalled a shared detail of her two recent landmark conversations about how Kotori had long known of Honoka's silent struggles.
Have you tried to have you tried to help her? Of course I have. I've tried my best, but I don't think that's I don't. Of course I have. I've tried my best, but I don't think it's enough for her. Why? I think she needs you.
Kotori said, her tone definitive and certain.
Me?
Umi was startled.
Why?
Kotori looked down and smoothed out her coat, allowing a tense silence to settle between the two before she answered.
When we were growing up, the two of us were always dragged in. Excuse me. When we were growing up, the two of us were always dragged into whatever Honoka-chan wanted to do. That's how she was. She usually got her way because she always had this aura about her. I always wanted to see what she'd do next, even if she failed at it. That usually wouldn't stop her. She'd be even more driven to succeed the next time she tried. But you could always rein her in if her ideas were too wild or if she was being unreasonable. I could never do that. I felt like I'd be holding her. Oh gosh, I felt like I'd be holding her back, even if it was the right thing to do. And
She craned her neck, searching for something in the distance. Umi did the same, realizing now that Honoka was completely out of sight.
I think she needs someone like that in her life.
She continued.
She needs someone to be her voice of reason.
Umi chewed on her lower lip. She wanted to agree completely with Kotori. She would have by now if this conversation had taken place even a day earlier. But something about her most recent developments made her hesitate.
That's true. Excuse me. That's true of the Honoka. Excuse me. That's true of the Honoka of before. But don't you think she's changed? When we met last night, she was so
Umi fumbled for the right words, her hands making useless gestures in her lap.
contemplative. That's not a word I'd use to. That's not a word I'd use to. That's not a word I'd use to describe the old Honoka.
Kotori was silent for a while. She was nodding slowly, but Umi guessed that she was thinking of a counterexample, judging from her now extended silence.
Do you remember the time that she ran away from home?
Umi raised an eyebrow.
Was that the third time or the sixth, perhaps?
Kotori tilted her head.
The time where she followed you home. Excuse me. The time where she followed you home from school and declared that she was a member of your family right in front of your parents. Oh, the third time.
Honeka's subsequent declarations that she didn't know her own family were a big deal to the 9-year-old Umi, but it all seemed humorous and insignificant to her now, especially after she later found out that the whole spat had its roots in Honeka's neglect for her chores. She was the one at fault, and she refused to admit it.
What about it? It's just an example of how. Excuse me. It's just an example of how she needs you. You talked her down and took her back home, right?
Umi nodded, unable to stop the smile that had begun to take hold.
She was crying so much while she apologized. She thought there was a legitimate chance they wouldn't take her back. And her family didn't even realize she'd run away.
Katori shook with laughter.
They thought she was just staying at your house for the afternoon. They were shocked, floored, and they were so angry.
Umi left along, allowing the now amusing memories to wash over her for no more than a moment.
Sure, she excuse me. Sure, she needed it. Excuse me. Sure, she needed me to reason with her at a time like that, but we were just kids. I don't think it applies now. Honoka-chan doesn't change so easily. I don't see the definitive proof that she needs me now.
Umi pressed, her brow creasing in frustration.
Just because she's thoughtful now doesn't mean she's reasonable.
Katori insisted.
You can't trust me to be reasonable right now either, Kotori.
Umi sighed, leaning forward and resting her chin on her palms. Katori was asking too much of her. There was no way that she could be there for Honoka with all of their unresolved emotional baggage. Perhaps more concerningly, Katori's words were giving her a different kind of encouragement.
You're giving me the wrong idea. Oh?
Katori said simply, raising an eyebrow. She sighed, peeking up at Katori through the gaps in her hands, imploring her friend with her eyes only.
This is just This is just a hypothetical question. Please don't take it too seriously. Okay. Based on what you've been saying, do you...
She paused, lingering over her words for another second before throwing them out for consideration.
Do you think that do you think that I would still have a chance with Honoka?
Katori's amber eyes held her. Umi felt like her words were being scrutinized, picked apart, though she had made her intentions quite clear.
You blew your best chance, Umi-chan. I know. In magnificent fashion.
Katori made a tiny arc with her hands. It was a cute and a truly inappropriate gesture for the subject matter, but Umi was not about to question her friend's mannerisms at this moment in time.
Yes, I did. When Honoka-chan first told me, I was shocked that you had the worst possible reaction. Kotori.
Umi gritted her teeth. She had to control her temper. Lashing out in the situation could only end badly.
I would appreciate it if you refrained from detailing all of my many follies. I spent far too much time dwelling on them myself.
Katori put her hand to her forehead, letting out a protracted exhale.
You're right, I'm sorry. There's no need for me to go into such detail.
Slowly, as she spoke, her usual disarming cadence returned to her voice. Umi was relieved to hear it, but at the same time, it was worrisome to see that she had come so close to invoking the wrath of the sweet, gentle Katori.
You, you understand you understand the spot that I was in, Umi-chan, with you two not being on speaking terms for so long.
Umi raised an eyebrow. This was something that she admitted with no small shame she'd only given cursory thought to. She merely nodded, allowing Kotori to continue.
I love you, Umi-chan. You know that. But I love Honoka-chan too. I love both. I love both of you. I love both of you so much. And when something like that happens,
She spread her arms out in front of her, like she was hoping to capture the magnitude of her own dilemma.
I feel like I have to pick sides. That's something I never wanted to do. But you did pick a side, didn't you?
Kotori frowned. Though she held Umi's gaze, she kept quiet, and when she did respond, her bout of silence had already told Umi all she needed to know.
Yeah, I did.
Kotori brushed her hand against the bench. It came away wet, and she rubbed the droplets between her fingers. Umi watched her do this once, then twice. She knew better than to interfere. An angry Kotori was as rare a sight as it was terrifying.
Umi-chan, I don't think your chances are zero. But now that chance isn't but now that chance isn't just a question of her love for you. It's also a question of her trust. That's true. I'm going to be completely honest with you, Umi-chan.
Umi braced herself, nodding slowly.
Go ahead. If she still trusts you after what you did, I'd be very surprised. I would be too. When I said that she needs you, I still think that's true. Ideally, it's in a platonic way.
She glanced at Umi's wavering gaze, but continued nonetheless.
If you can be that voice of reason for her, without constantly reminding her of her former love for you, then that's perfect. You both minimize the risk of getting hurt that way. I'm really in it deep, aren't I?
Kotori nodded, then turned away, for Honoka was bounding back towards them.
I'm done being rational for now. If I may be selfish for just a moment, good luck. Even after all that's happened, some part of me still wants to see you two happy. Or at least I want to see you two trying to escape this rut you're in.
Umi frowned. They didn't have more than 10 seconds before Honoka was within earshot.
Remember, this is all hypothetical. Okay.
Kotori shrugged, as though she was just coming to terms with the idea.
Then it's hypothetical, good luck.
Umi had to smile.
I give you my hypothetical thanks.
Turning to face Honoka together, Umi only now realized that she had brought someone with her. Rather, dragged would be a more fitting way to describe how Honoka had led her here, as the frequent bounce of her twin tails, combined with the exertion displayed across her face, told Umi that she couldn't keep this pace up for much longer.
I found Nico-chan!
Honoka gave a grand gesture towards the girl in question, as though she were a rare animal. Nico was hunched over, her hands on her knees. Umi peered at her, wondering if she should offer some water, but it only took her a few moments for her to catch her breath, and when she looked up, her glare was as intense and intimidating as it had always been.
Whose funeral did both of you come back from?
She asked, seeing Umi's grave expression.
Mine.
Umi couldn't resist making the joke at her own expense, even with Honoka standing right there. In a way, she wasn't lying, she reasoned to herself. Nico pulled a grimace, eyeing Umi with distaste.
I'm sorry I asked.
Where are the others?
Umi changed the subject.
Have you have you seen them?
Well, I was with Ellie and Nozomi.
Nico jerked her
Eli.
thumb over her shoulder.
It's
Until
Ellie.
someone tackled me and dragged me away. Couldn't say I was kidnapped.
Oh?
Honoka grinned, her eyes anywhere but at the girl she was addressing.
Who who'd do something like that, especially to someone who's so...
It happened so fast, Umi hardly caught Nico's fist falling back, almost innocuous, to her side. Only when she saw Honoka clutching at her forearm, her face now twisted up in pain, did she understand.
Nico-chan!
Honoka whispered through her gritted teeth.
Not pulling your punches today, I see.
Nico's voice was dangerous and low.
Say the S word. I dare you.
Honoka nodded slowly.
Okay.
She took a deep breath.
You're sure? Okay.
Umi had to intervene, knowing how lethal Nico's pint-sized punches could be.
That's more than enough. Shall we meet with the others?
She didn't wait for anyone to agree, setting off in the direction Honoka and Nico came from, the latter of the two promptly falling into step at her side.
Oh.
Nico hissed, nudging Umi with an elbow.
How did it go?
How'd what?
Umi trailed off as Nico's intended meaning took effect.
Nico, you told me to talk to her 6 hours ago.
Yeah, and? That's more than enough time.
Umi affixed her senior with an incredulous stare. It only took moments for Nico to give in. She shoved Umi slightly, her dismissive laugh piercing the cold air.
It's messing with you. It's Christmas. Try to be happy tonight. Try to get her.
She jerked her thumb back towards Honoka.
To be happy too. Can you do that?
Umi opened her mouth, ready to answer in her usual uncertain manner, but this time she stopped herself. She didn't fully believe Kotori's words yet, about how Honoka needed her, but that wouldn't stop her from trying.
I can.
There you go.
Nico grinned, clapping Umi on the shoulder.
Where's this Umi been?
Did she clap on the shoulder that she hit her on earlier in the day? What? Gosh. What are you two talking about?
Kotori approached them from behind, both girls turning to face her.
I want... Gosh darn it. I want in on the fun too.
Nico slung her arm across Umi's shoulder, and though she didn't mind the excessive physical contact, Umi knew that her senior could shift from playful to threatening gestures at a moment's notice. Right now, she wasn't sure which one Nico had in mind.
By fun, you mean whipping Umi into shape here? Then I'm having a blast!
Such an asshole. Oh, you two, Nico-chan?
Kotori eyed the unlikely pair, her smile growing. Umi swallowed harshly.
I could use the help. Thanks a lot. You two know I'm right here, don't you?
Umi tried to interject, fearing a dual grilling by both Kotori and Nico.
And where did Honoka run off to this time? Over here, you three!
Honoka called, as if on cue, from further up the street, where she had slipped past without any of them noticing. Once again, she wasn't alone, and the remaining two seniors she was with waved in tandem. Umi Shakatori and Nico a relieved look before hurrying to join the others.
Okay, Nozomi. Umi-chan, it's been so long!
Nozomi smirked at her, waggling her eyebrows as though the joke wasn't already obvious. Umi played along.
Yes, 6 hours is an unbearable wait.
She said, returning the smile.
There's
What did you say, Tanner?
sorry, I was about to say my line ahead of time.
Alright, I have no idea what voice I can do for Ellie. What almost... She's Russian, but she doesn't have the accent. We're almost complete.
Ellie observed,
Thank
looking
you,
from Honoka
Stack
to
McBrayer.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Ellie observed, looking from Honoka to Umi.
Now it just needs for...
She's just Applejack.
Now it just needs the first years.
Years on my farm here. There's no way. There's no way they can bail on us now.
Nico said as she and Kotori joined them.
First opportunity to be here since we graduated. On Christmas! The storybook setting is off the charts.
Yeah, no... yeah, no one would miss the opportunity... Oh, gosh. Yeah, no one would miss the opportunity to see Umi-chan.
Kotori giggled.
Don't act like I have some heightened sense of importance.
Umi frowned, scowling at her friend.
I'm glad I got my opportunity.
Honoka pounced on Umi unexpectedly, causing her to let out an undignified yelp as her combined weight threatened to make her knees buckle. She kept her footing after stumbling somewhat, and she looked up to the sight of a smiling Honoka hanging on her shoulder, as well as the other girls looking on, surprise painted across their faces.
Honoka?
Umi protested, a blush rising to her face as being the center of attention.
Please warn me before you try... Please warn me before you try to tackle me to the ground.
Honoka seemed to pay her no mind, humming as she nestled in closer to Umi.
But it's true. You know...
Ellie observed, smiling all the while.
Honoka might be onto something. Where would we be without our regular dose of Umi?
She stepped closer, her too wide smile making the hairs on Umi's neck stand on end.
Ellie...
Umi held her senior with an imploring stare.
Shouldn't you be helping me out of this, not encouraging it? She's right, you know.
Zomi said, her hands already up and seemingly ready to launch into some sort of unwelcome physical contact.
Ugh. You too, Nozomi.
Umi's gaze darted to all of her friends currently present. All of them stepped forward in unison while Honoka still held her in her death grip. She closed her eyes and gulped, bracing herself for the inevitable Umi sandwich, with its namesake at the center. What's all the fuss about? A familiar voice, outside the immediate vicinity of the circle, saved Umi from her half-pleasant, half-unpleasant fate. All of them turned, all 6 faces lining up to various degrees of surprise.
John!
Nico was the first to call her over.
Took you long enough. We're like an hour behind schedule by now.
What schedule? Maki scowled at her senior. You said 7:30, and I knew it would take at least a half hour for everyone to get together. So here I am. Besides, she added, glancing back at the two guilty-looking girls who hung a few feet back, their eyes elsewhere, I couldn't have accounted for someone trying to start a snowball fight on the way here.
Harry, your time is now.
Oh, okay, hold on. That's fine. I don't even remember what the voice I gave was.
The voice of the Legion.
The demon.
Okay, how far down are we?
Pretty far down. Just do Control F and then type in Rin.
Okay. Oh god, that gives me 46 different things.
First one.
Well, no, because it's giving me, like, all the other words that have Rin somewhere in them. So, like, wandering, lingering, grinned.
Okay. Rin and then like spacebar or W-W.
Who could that be? Yeah.
Rin stammered, making a pathetic attempt at whistling.
Kyochin said it'd be fun too.
Okay. Tanner, can you do voice Hanayo?
B. It would be.
Hanayo muttered from her friend's side.
There was, more than a centimeter of snow on the ground already. Thought you knew that, Rin-chan.
Umi observed the pair's red faces and their shivering even through their jackets, and she was able to piece together who exactly was involved in this snow fight. Maki's irritated expression and traces of ice dripping down her windbreaker was further proof of this.
Oh, hey, Umi-chan.
Rin rushed forward, disrupting Umi's scatterbrained thoughts.
Wait, if you're here, that means...
She whipped her head around, taking in everybody present.
Everyone's here?
Her mouth fell open.
Short.
That's right!
Boom, baby.
Nico struck a dramatic pose, brandishing a camera in the air.
And you all know what that means, right?
Tanner.
I thought I said it. Oh,
Your Hanayo
No.
also.
Yep.
early New Year's mochi?
Hanayo piped up.
A dog pile on Nikochi?
Nozomi suggested.
A live performance of snow halation!
Honoka called right into Umi's ear, making her jump. She still had her arms wrapped around Umi's shoulder. Nico snapped a palm to her forehead. The sound was almost painful.
You're all wrong! Do I need to explain everything around here?
When she was met with silence, she stamped her foot and huffed.
We have to commemorate this year, this fucking stutter of a line with a picture! Use 3 years later or something. Yeah, I like the sound of that.
Nods and sounds of affirmation rose from the group. Umi herself had no problem with the idea. It could add some much needed decoration to her empty college department or make for a more uplifting phone wallpaper. Within seconds, Nico had a passerby set up the picture with her camera, and the 9 girls crowded into the figurative picture frame, posing in the middle of the street. All around them, the Christmas lights hung on the storefronts all the way down the street, making for a distinctly festive, if not somewhat blurry, composition.
What should we do for this picture?
Anka asked to no one in particular.
Everyone hug Umi-chan.
Katori chirped immediately.
Wait, what?
Umi tried to protest, but she found herself at the exact center of all of her friends. She only had time to wish that she had been more spatially aware before she was swarmed in a flurry of hugs and giggles, and Nico's camera flashed.
I'm sure it will be a wonderful picture.
She thought to herself as she was released, unable to prevent a nostalgic smile from crossing her face. As the night began to wind down, Maki was the first to pull Umi aside. I'm done writing the song. How does 2 days from now sound? Umi blinked.
2 days for what?
You know, 2 days until we start recording.
2 days?
Umi couldn't hide her surprise. Maki shushed her, glancing over at the remainder of the group, scattered at different points on the sidewalk. None of them seemed to hear the outburst, so Umi continued.
You can book you can book a spot that quickly?
The band really wants to start playing it. We finished the rest of the instruments after we hung out this morning, and I was aiming to start tomorrow. But I still need to send the parts out to the band after I get home. I'll give them a day to practice, and after that, we should be ready to record. Umi nodded slowly, her eyes wide with amazement.
That's quite a band you've got there. Only 1 day to practice?
They're pretty good, but that applies to you too, you know.
Oh, right.
Umi flushed, as she had momentarily forgotten her own assignment for the song.
Can't you give me a few extra days to practice the vocals? You need to record all the instruments first so I can sing over the complete backing track.
That's fine, but I want you to come to all the recording sessions. I'll be overseeing the instrumentals, but I want your input too.
Are you sure?
Maki leaned in, lowering her voice even though they were well out of earshot of anyone else. You can't forget, this is your song first and foremost. Don't you want to get acquainted with the band? Get a feel for who's playing what? Umi couldn't argue with that.
Okay,
She conceded.
I'll be there.
Great. It's going to turn out fantastic. The second time Umi was pulled aside, the method used was a little less ceremonious. While they were walking a group, someone yanked on her arm, effectively pulling her to the very back, where her sailing lagged behind the rest of the group. Umi rubbed at the back of her neck when the other girl remained silent.
Honoka, are you alright?
This, she noted, was the first time that they had been alone since last night. She wondered if Honoka wanted to continue that distant conversation, or if she had something of equal weight that she wanted to say.
I've been wanting to remind you.
Honoka whispered, even though they were likely out of earshot with the slow pace at which they both walked.
You still owe me something. Something big.
Umi turned, her eyes wide upon hearing the statement.
May I ask why? Don't you remember the night you left?
She stopped in her tracks, immediately feeling heat rise to her face. Of course she couldn't prevent herself from physically reacting to the mentions of her lingering regrets. Still frozen, she took in Honoka's expectant expression, betraying nothing more beyond that.
What about what about it? We were trying not to, excuse me. We were trying not to talk about leaving.
Umi tried to study Honoka's face, framed in the Christmas lights, but she only saw a slight irritation in her furrowed brows and pout to match. Her face was more cute than angry, and Umi found herself trying to hold back a smile. Remembering that they were discussing a dangerous time frame, that they were moments away from breaching more sensitive topics that Umi had run from for years, the traces of a smile disappeared from her face. She knew full well what Honoka was referring to, and she responded carefully without insinuating anything further about that night.
I failed miserably, if I recall correctly. You did.
Honoka nodded in agreement.
Are you going to keep your promise?
Umi's nod was automatic, and she almost wished she could take it back. Part of her, the more cynical, negative part that had dictated the majority of her actions over these past 2 years, told her that she had no right to try and promise anything with the girl whose heart she had broken. At the same time, she couldn't let that part define her. There was a more forgiving, selfless part of her that she neglected for just as long. And right now, it was telling her to prove herself, to keep proving herself until she was someone that Honoka truly deserved.
I am. What do you request out of me? For you, I'd do anything.
She left the last part unspoken, unsure as she was that Honoka was ready to hear it. The rest of the girls had almost mixed in with the rest of the Christmas crowd, somewhat blurry shapes in the distance. Umi could still make out the general sound of their chatter as she listened, but right now she didn't want to make a sound. She was fixated on the girl in front of her, and in that moment she thought that she would do anything if that Honoka asked. Self-preservation be damned.
I want you to keep in touch.
Honoka murmured, her voice quiet but confident.
Even when you're away at college.
The request was simple, clear, but the implication was not. Still, Umi responded with an equally firm,
Of course. No more disappearing? Not anymore. Not after I know that you don't hate me. I'd love that. Thank you.
Honoka fidgeted for a few moments, then her hand darted out to grasp Umi's. Judging from the redness that she failed to conceal, Umi guessed that it was an impulsive action.
Of course, it's the least I can do.
Umi smiled, squeezing Honoka's hand in hers.
It really is.
Honoka giggled.
Come on, let's catch up. They're probably wondering what we're talking about.
She jerked her head in the direction of the other girls. Nico stood at the edge, waving and calling something Umi couldn't hear from this distance.
Hey! Hey!
Are we going to tell them?
Umi asked. Honoka hummed to herself. When she turned back to Umi, her smile was as bright as any she'd seen from her from before she left.
Nope, it's our secret.
Umi remembered Nico's advice to her from earlier that evening.
Get her to be happy too. Can you do that?
She says, whispering into Umi's ear directly.
Did I get too close to the mic there?
No, I'm just saying that's probably what Nico would do instead of just being an echo.
Yeah, she would. She totally would.
Looking at Honoka's smile now, a mixture of mischief and simple joy, as the snow continued to fall gently around them, Umi knew that she had succeeded, if only for this one moment. Prying into her words, the nature of her quest to keep in touch threatened to shatter that fragile happiness, and so Umi chose not to pursue that threat for the time being. When Honoka stepped forward, her hand still interlocked with Umi's, the usual bounce had returned to her step.
And end chapter. The notes,
Dang.
the author's notes seem to imply that there's only supposed to be 9 chapters of the story. I guess they changed their mind down the line.
I
Yeah,
I
I've
didn't
seen
get
that
a lot
happen.
to
If
do in
you,
this episode till the
That's-
end.
yeah, that went by surprisingly fast.
Yeah, no, that was a really good recording session. I feel
Yeah.
like everyone was voice acted really well.
Scrappy, I feel like Scrappy did have like most of the
Oh,
lines,
Scrappy
but
did really well.
I'm not sure what you were doing with your Ellie voice, but that was the funniest thing this
Oh,
episode.
that was amazing.
I couldn't.
Southern cowgirl, Ellie.
I.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
It's a good thing my mic was muted because I was dying.
No, that was amazing because it kind of started out as like Jack McBrayer and then it went to cowgirl.
Thank you. You're too kind. I ran out of female voices to do, so Iggy Koopa came back.
Ellie
I
is
don't
Iggy
know. I
confirmed.
feel like there were a couple line readings as Nico that I could have done better, either because the text came after and I didn't read it ahead and I misinterpreted the emotion she was saying, or at points I felt like I forced it, but there were other points where I felt perfectly natural.
My only regret is that Nico just took a while to show up.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean,
Yeah.
how'd I do when I was there?
You were excellent as usual.
I like
Nico name, motherfucker.
being like the sarcastic arse that she is. I think you portrayed that really well.
Oh
was
gosh,
anything.
we will find a Nico story so you can have a showcase of your talents.
If I can find, any of us can find something good in the future, then yeah.
No, I'm happy. I don't want to be a show off or anything.
I mean,
Lies!
it could also just
Yeah,
be a
no,
fun
that's
thing.
absolutely a fucking lie.
It could also just be a fun thing to read because that sounds like it would be
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh, no.
Nico's
like,
just a fun character.
Oh no, I'm having a fucking blast as Nico.
Oh my!
There's
Yes,
definitely
I
something
am.
out there.
Yeah, I'm absolutely far more happy with my performance tonight than I am in pretty much any other night doing this story.
You did really good. You
Yeah, this was
sold a lot of the emotional moments.
this was
Oh, Nova, you were great too. I forgot to mention.
Yes, thank you, Nova, for handling narration and Marika and Maki. Excellent as per usual, and taking a massive weight off of me.
yeah, you do a really good job with narrating, Nova. It's very clear and
Very concise, well paced.
My primary role, especially in this episode, was I just show up and say something. Well, no, I also helped resolve parts of Umi's arc, but I also just show up and say something funny.
I'm not sure
It's
if
the Nico way.
I'm not sure if I portrayed Ren the best, but I tried.
The one line that I really wish I could reread is, oh god, where is it? There's a couple lines. I had, because sometimes I'm supposed to be exuberant and over the top, but there are points where I felt like I was forcing it. I don't know. Hold on. There was one line where I clearly misread it, and it's weird because I read ahead and I had a delivery in mind, which I guess kind of is what screwed me up because it wasn't natural. I premeditated that. At that point, it was like more focused on saying it the way I wanted to than what was natural.
Right.
But what was the line?
Was it the one where she's complaining about, like, I dare you to say it, Honoka?
Yeah, no, I on that one.
Yeah, you did. I was just wondering.
No, really, that was my favorite line to do.
She's just a human incarnation of a Pomeranian.
She is. She angry. She angry.
She angry, bro.
No, it was the funeral. Like, whose funeral did you get back from? And then I think the part after that, it's like,
oh my god.
I should have delivered that more deadpan. Like, shit. Sorry, I asked.
Yeah.
I totally should have, but I misread. But I don't know. What did you guys think?
Of
You
your
were-
performance, or
Yeah.
I think you did a
And
good
the
job.
general fic. Yeah, validate my ego and then talk about the fic.
Yeah, you were fine. Like there were some there were some moments where you maybe misread a line, but I misread lines, so it's okay.
Oh, dude, it's natural, especially when it's like the first time reading something.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help that your lines were very scattered really far across the chapter.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
I
Yeah,
had the camera line and I just fucked it up, and I kind of just had to roll with that.
yes, you did what you recommended last time. So good on that. Let's see. Your Hanayo voice is unique to say the least.
Yeah,
I
wasn't
was-
expecting that.
I have nothing. I know nothing. So
Well, she's usually pretty high pitched.
Yeah, she's like the squeakiest member outside of Katori.
all right.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling me that after.
In my defense, I did say she sounded like Sachi from Sword Art Online last time.
Uh-huh.
I just
I don't watch Sword Art Online. I think that show's trash.
Tanner, I have
So-
bad news. We're reading a Kirito story next week.
Oh,
I'm
please
not
don't.
joining that.
Please don't. I don't want to do.
Yes, you are.
I,
No,
I
I'm
don't.
not fucking no.
I
No,
don't.
Yes.
I can tolerate this idle anime cutesy bullshit, but I draw the line at Sword Art. I draw the Sword Art online.
Oh god.
Oh, dear.
I don't. I like.
I'm sorry. I just that pun went into my head and I had to do it.
I don't. I don't want to think about SAO right now.
No, I don't ever
When do
want to
you-
think about SAO.
Yeah, I was about to say.
This is okay. You know what? This is not the piss on SAO hour. This is the praise Ottermelon hour. Ottermelon, you did a wonderful job.
Yeah, going back to good stuff again. Yeah, I really like the interactions between the second years, like Honoka, Katori, and Umi. Like that whole scene was really adorable, and it just makes me smile. It's really
This
cute.
entire chapter was adorable.
Yeah, it's
We
just
needed
good
this
character
after the
interactions.
last chapter.
Yeah, this is good. A good feel good chapter after the whole baggage
After
of the last
heavy
one.
stuff, this-
Yeah.
But it still resolved everything that was going on in the previous one.
Yeah,
It
I-
resolved everything but Honoka's sister, who is out for blood.
Yeah.
It's
Hanukkah gonna die next chapter.
it's a good way that Autumn handled this, because it's like he's continuing the story after the whole stuff that happened last time, but done this in a way that kind of gives you a break at the same time. It's really well done, I think,
Alright.
because you can't just have, huh?
Even though I have a blast playing. I'm sorry. No, I interrupted you.
I was just gonna. Wait, what was I gonna say? I don't even remember anymore.
I gotta say, even though I have a blast playing Nico, even if it's only a few lines, she is also kind of exhausting to play.
She's exhausting to be around, so it's accurate.
Cause she requires so much of my energy.
You know, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of wish Rin had more lines because it's actually kind of fun voicing her.
Oh, so now you're into it. Okay. Well, unfortunately, Rin's presence in the story is roughly accurate to how she was portrayed in the show. Not very present.
Well,
Oh man.
she got a really good
She got
character episode
one
anyway.
really good focus episode in the show, and that was kind of it.
I'm
Yeah,
still
I mean-
upset that I fucked up a really funny scene of her being like, "Shit, sorry I asked." It's funny.
You will have your moment in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
I just really appreciate, like, yeah, this is just, I enjoy this chapter, especially on two fronts. A breather chapter, just to kind of regain our bearings after the drama bombs last time. And yeah, well, the simple fact is that we got all 9 girls present for the first time in the story, so
Mm,
that's nice.
yeah. Again, the character interactions were just like really solid.
On point.
Oh yeah, and I'd say that this is probably, in terms of performances, this is our best night collectively.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
If only because I'm not dragging the average down this time. This went rather quickly as well. Like the chapter wasn't short, so Noah just did well narrating, and I didn't have to stumble over lines.
Yeah. I mean, considering
Yeah.
how many voices you had to do, like you still did a really good job, Scrappy.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, yeah. Once again, you sold a lot of the emotional moments.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really have much
I
else to add to that.
I flubbed so many of Umi's lines when she was supposed to sound like emotion X. I sounded emotion Y. Sounded like emotion Y.
No, you're not the only one guilty of that though.
Mm.
My favorite part of this show is just Tanner and I trying to out self-deprecate each other. It's just it's like, what's the word? It's like shaft rubbing, but the exact opposite.
It's kind of, yeah. It's okay. What would be like anti-fellatio? Because we're blowing each other basically.
It's like proving who has, hold on, let me choose my words carefully. Yes, thank you.
Object looks more like an acorn. Let's go.
Oh god.
There's a Sonic fan dub joke I can make, but I'm not gonna do it.
I know it though. I can. Got it. See, I hear it. I hear it.
I will pay you money to do the whole Eggman spiel in Nico's voice.
Oh god.
What? You want me to do that?
If you want to.
Do it right now.
Do you want me to fucking?
Let's end it with this.
Actually, wait, before you do that, Nova, final thoughts.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, basically, this was definitely honestly, it was definitely a very welcome change of pace from the drama of the last 2 chapters, and I guess if there's something, and if there's anything else I can say, it's that I can definitely relate to Umi wanting to make sure everything is fine, because even though again, like I said in a past episode, I've never had to deal with this kind of situation. I also just feel this overwhelming sense of obligation to want to make sure everybody I care about is happy, because like, whether or not I had anything to do with them being sad, the fact of the matter is I just want people to be happy, even if I'm not.
Yeah, I can relate to
You
that.
and Umi sound like you have caretaker personalities, and there are benefits and drawbacks to that. I know
Yeah.
from not personal experience, but secondary experience.
Hmm.
Yeah, Ottermelon, you really sell the crippling awkwardness of young adult relationships, and I hate you for it. But all in all, an excellent chapter, and I'm happy that I was in a better state of mind to appreciate it fully this time.
Mm.
So, Ottermelon, we thank you for providing us this material, even if I was riffing on it like an asshole. You gave us wholesome stuff, and now Tanner will piss on it in more ways than one.
Whenever you're ready to go, I guess. Oh, dude.
Oh, shit. Sorry. Do you want to do this with vernacular that applies to this story and these characters, or do you want me to just do it with the original rant?
I do it.
Hmm.
Um. Do it over stuff relating to the story, but have like the same general idea as the
I'm gonna need
original.
a lot of water for this. Oh Christ.
I have seen you can recite the original by memory, and you've been able to customize it for other characters you impersonate.
Right. Yeah, just
You can do
customize it a little
I
bit
believe in
too.
you.
Customize it a little
I've
bit.
come to make an announcement. Umi is a bitch ass motherfucker. She pissed on my fucking wife. That's right. She took her tiny little shy, socially awkward pussy out on my fucking wife, and she said her tits were this big. And I said that's disgusting. So I'm making a call out post on my twitter.com. Umi, you've got small tits. They're the size of me in general, but we're not going to talk about that. And guess what? Here's what my tits look like. That's right, baby. They're honestly not that big, but I'm insecure. No pillows. Look at that. It looks once again not that big. My wife. So guess what? I'm gonna fuck the earth. That's right. This is what you get. My super laser piss. I'm not gonna piss on the earth. No. Here. I'm pissing on the moon. How do you like that, Obama? I pissed on the moon, you idiot! You have 23 hours before the piss droplets hit the fucking earth. You get out of my fucking sight before I piss on you too. My family is gonna come up here and wonder what the hell I'm talking about. I'm just angry.
That
Oh my.
was beautiful.
Thank you, Tanner. And to any child watching this like a fool and didn't have their headphones in,
Right,
we are
ugly
sorry.
little girl, I hate you and your stupid nose. I'm taking everything from you. Give me your phone.
Oh my god.
Oh gosh.
That
Thank you,
was
Tanner.
something.
All right, so that's how we're ending it. We're just doing a bit that isn't even ours.
Yes.
Indeed.
We're reading.
You made it your own. That was good.
Oh no, I just thought what applies to that character. You see, I'm actually a really good method actor.
You sound worn out. I think it's time to call it quits.
I don't usually rewatch these, but I kind of want to rewatch this one and just rewind to the end.
Oh my.
Yeah, I think I'm done failing in this game.
I could have worked one in there, but I didn't. I couldn't think of a place.
Okay, well, got any closing words, or am I free to stop the stream now?
we thank you all for letting us into your homes once again. We will return with story time with Scrappy and friends probably next week.
We got like what 2 chapters left, don't we?
We are running out the clock until they finally upload the other 2 chapters after the 2 chapters we have to read. We have
Yeah.
left to read.
So
Yeah, this story
so-
will go on.
I was gonna say after we finish these 2 chapters, unless by some miracle Autumn releases one of the next chapters before we finish, we're gonna have to take a break and then come back to this at some other point.
Maybe. Wait, is this? Oh wow! I've already done the whole plug my own story joke. Okay. Maybe I'll have my story finished. It won't be finished then. And by story, I mean literally just the next chapter. I'm not finishing that story anytime soon. Yeah, Tanner, we're gonna get that chapter done eventually.
Oh. I mean, oh god, I'm playing both Wario Brothers once we read that, aren't I?
Only if you can endure them and Luigi, because the Mario and Wario brothers are the mains, sensibly, of that chapter. I'm not sure if I want 3 people, you doing 3 roles, that dialogue heavy.
If there were any 3 characters I'd want to voice, it'd be them.
Okay, actually, I think you can. I mean, I trust you to handle all 3, but we'll see.
Wario. Okay, out of the 3, Wario's the hardest on the throat.
I can imagine. We can alternate as per usual, because I can do a decentish Wario voice.
Wario is that his voice got deeper and deeper as the games went on. I assume just due to Charles aging, because it was very high pitched early on. I'm Wario. I'm gonna win.
I forgot about that old Wario clips. Anyway, we thank you, folks. Wait, did you already end? Or are we still doing this?
You didn't tell me to stop, so it's still going.
Oh, okay. So this has just been us rambling about Wario.
Hi, my
so-
social security number is.
Oh no.
Let's see. Yeah, so thank you, folks, for letting us into your homes, and we will convene again, probably next week, and continue this story. And if we are lucky, Ellie will grace us once again with her dulcet tones.
She does have a
Thank you.
pretty big role in the future chapter, so you're in luck.
Oh man, here we go.
I don't think it's the next one, but it's happening.
Oh. Well, until next time, folks, we bid you good adieu. I can't speak French. We bid you good night.
We bid you this one Jewish guy. You can keep him. He's our pet.
Jeez Louise.
What you
Okay,
said.
we'll leave it at that. See you guys next week.